Well, Dr. Olaniyi Ibidapo joins us today to examine a number of issues actually that has popped up owing to this EVD. Well, he's actually an economist with interest in communication strategies, health communication, and regulatory affairs. He's done extensive research in communication strategy. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You know, at this time, we happen also to be battling with the question of stigmatization. Before now, everyone thought, let's have this sorted out. But little did they know that it was going to have that kind of effect. But you saw that gentleman who came up, and I'm sure some people who watched that will have their jaws drop,
Right.
saying, how did he come out to say all of this? But that's what we need to do to move on, isn't it?
Correct. First of all, let me come briefly to the background that we experienced Ebola unprepared. Of course, the Federal Ministry of Health had been preparing for this through the collaboration with the CDC. And that is one of the reasons why we're able to, so far, contain it to this level. Coming to stigmatization, it's one of the effects and reactions to any outbreak of diseases. And that comes out of fear, misinformation, or misrepresentation of situations. Except we come out with a policy in terms of a legal policy and awareness creation among the population community, there will be a serious problem in the future because people that went through trauma are heroes. It is not a nice experience to go through, an attack and come out and survive, and then come back to the community unaccepted. We need to let people know that Ebola can be prevented through informing the public. And from that on, we move on to sensitizing the community. The community has to be involved.
Okay, because it looks as though there really isn't an end in terms of the kinds of strategy or how we should approach this, because before now, the message was, when it was so scary, when you heard about the EVD, someone who has contracted it, and then the message design experts came up with that notion, and they were heard people talking about, look, EVD is not a death sentence, because we had people who went through it and they came up alive. And so now we're at that stage where we need to deal with that stigmatization. So society needs to embrace them, you say?
That's true. We need to come up with multi-dimensional, multifaceted approaches, because that came on the notion that the more the approaches, the more the effect of realizing the goal. And most of these approaches are templates, international templates, that has not been adequately tested. So you cannot measure the effectiveness immediately. So you cannot rely on one approach. That is why you need to use different approaches, be it mass media, sensitization, and training. But the community has to be involved, because the occurrence is within the community. And whatever the policy you place, whatever the implementations you are going to take on this Ebola outbreak, community has to be involved. And when I mention community, it has to be the religious organizations, the MDAs, the NGOs, the individuals, and the corporate bodies. And this is a big opportunity for the corporate bodies in the country to take advantage of this. And Ebola is everybody's business now, because the mobility within the country is so huge that you cannot actually control the movement of people among the schools, among the youths, among the workers. So corporate bodies should take advantage of cost-related marketing now and to make a win-win situation.
You know, you consult for a number of agencies in this country, Federal Ministry of Health, NAFDAC, and some of them public and private sector. So what do you do? I mean, when this kind of messages continue, maybe not to run of the mill, but when they are consistently out there, do you measure to see what kind of strategy they need to adopt next, and how does it work? Do they carry it out? Are we getting results?
Measurement of strategies could be in various forms, but because we are currently in an emergency situation, we need to take different approaches. And at the end of the day, when people get informed, that is one form of measurement. When people get realized, both in the houses, in the churches, in everywhere. For example, channels have been so active in informing people on Ebola, and you've been leading, your sector on this, which is commendable.
But if you look at what this brings back to mind for me, is how we had to battle, stigma again with HIV and AIDS. It took quite a while before a lot of people understood that HIV wasn't a death sentence. In fact, it would seem that the sensitization on that is still ongoing. So you had an entire agency created to, help people be aware of HIV. Do we need to go that far with Ebola?
Of course, yes. If you look at smallpox, for example, it was an epidemic, and we combated that. We came down to polio. We're just approaching eradicating polio in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Ebola is another form of an outbreak. The difference is this, that the viral disease is deadly. So we need to take that approach as aggressive as the disease is. And at the end of the day, I believe we can get there.
I'm looking at the reaction of the United States in terms of how they dealt with this immediately after Dr. Kent got better out of hospital. You found the medical personnel hosting a press conference, not just to announce that he's gotten better, but showing him in public. He was also allowed to speak with his wife and on. They said he was fit to return to his community. Yep. Now, a lot of people said that by itself immediately demystified the disease and certified to the public that he was fit to return. But come back home to Nigeria, all we seem to have done is just announce that people have survived this disease, they've been discharged, they're better, and they're back home. We've not been able to get names, we've not been able to get, only the names of those we've been able to get are those who have died. Right. Do you think that there is something about our approach to this that also helps, foster this idea of stigma?
Not really, because culture plays a big role in this situation. Mm-hmm. American culture is different from African culture. And this situation exposes our infrastructure under development. We need to improve our health infrastructure. That will help us a lot. But at the same time, the Ebola survivor needs to come out and let people know that they are still alive. And that's why policy implication has to start, because when government backs them up with a law, back up with Ebola health policy, this will help us in identifying and recognizing that we can curb Ebola spread.
You talked about our culture. What is it in our culture that doesn't help people come out?
Well, one of the things that we have in this system is we have a community system whereby the family-dependent system in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And information is very important. Exposure is very important. Comparing America's system to Nigerian system is good because we need to compare with a standard. But at the same time, we have challenges. We have infrastructural challenges, and we have illiteracy, high rate of illiteracy in Africa, particularly in Nigeria. The population is huge, but a lot of people are educated, but are they really informed? To be educated is one, to have certificates is another thing, to be really informed is another situation. So these are the issues that we need to deal with, and we need to take it one by one. We need to take it pace by pace, and we cannot compare our situation with American situation.
But Chairman, it would seem though that some of the survivors are willing to come out. Do you think that we should start with those who are willing? Because it would seem that we'll also have to educate the survivors on the fact that you shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that you survived this disease. In fact, you're a survivor, you're a hero of some sort. You went against this, and you came out alive. Do you think that they too need to be educated? We just saw a brave young man come out, and he's had a very, very nasty experience, both from Ebola and also the reaction to the public after that.
There are two sides to a coin. The people being stigmatized are also traumatized. They have fear. They don't know what could happen. They need to be educated, they need to be trained, they need to be empowered. Empowerment is very, very key to allowing them, to helping them to come to the fore.
What kind of empowerment is that?
Empowerment can come in different forms by legal empowerment. Their human rights has to be protected. When you have an employer sacking an Ebola victim, he has seriously infringed on his human rights, and that has to be protected through government supporting litigations, and that will create fear, and more people will be aware.